Hello everyone, my name is Himanshu Sharma and in this video we will see how to set up a simple cache implementation in a Spring Boot application. So let's get started. Let's head to the Spring Initializer website. Over here we will build a Maven project and you can provide values as per your preference. I will say Spring Cache Demo. The packaging will be jar version 17, and in dependencies, if we search with cache, you will get Spring Cache Abstraction, and if we explore it, what it is adding is a Spring Boot starter cache, and that is all we need. So let's close it and now go ahead and generate this setup and open it in your favorite IDE. So I am using IntelliJ, so let's head to the IDE now. Alright, so here is the POM XML which we saw earlier, and we only have one dependency, Spring Boot starter cache. So let's head to our application and first create a service. So let's create a package service, and here I'm going to add a Java class saying, let's say, business service. And what I'm going to do is I will create a variable, let's say an array, data array. Okay, and it will be a string type, and here I will specify certain values. Alright, so these are actually the index numbers of the array. It's just a Spring representation of them. Now I'm going to create a method. It's a long running method, and it will take the index and it will return the value corresponding to that index. So if I am sending the index as 2, it will return me the 2 in string. Alright, so let's make it a long running one, and for that we will use thread.sleep and let's say 3000 milliseconds, and then we surround it with try catch. Okay, and this is a service, so let's specify it as a service for Spring Boot. And now what we are going to do is we will invoke this method from our main application class. So let's head to the application class. Over here, first thing is we need the service, so we say business service, and then we auto wire it. And for invocation, what we will do is we will use the command line runner, and let's implement the method here as a business service long running method, and we pass it 2. Alright, so let's quickly check our setup. Let's run this application and let's store it in variable first. So let's say this is my result and I'm going to print it. Right, so I say result. Okay, so let's run the application now. Yes, we are getting the response, so our setup is correct. Now what we are going to do is we will create a variable, let's say start time, and I'll specify its system.current time millis. Alright, and then I will create another method, another variable, and this is going to be end time. Okay, and finally what I am going to do is, along with the result, I will print time taken. Okay, and here I'm saying end time minus start time. Okay, so let's run it one more time. Yeah, so we are getting something around 3000 because in our business method we are putting a sleep of 3000. So the total time it is taking is 3000, right? So now for cache we need to understand one thing, that for cache to work, first of all cache needs to be loaded. So whenever you are implementing a cache, your first call will still take the time, because during your first call your cache is empty and it will load it at that time. So what I'm going to do is I will specify the same code snippet one more time down below. Okay, and I will put the comment second call, and here I will rename the variables again. Alright, result 2, and here instead of 2 let's get the result of index 3. Alright, so let's run one more time. Alright, so you can see over here in both the cases the time taken is around 3000 milliseconds, which we have specified over here because our method is taking that time before returning the value. So when we implement the cache, our expectation should be that second call onwards the time should be reduced for our calls. Okay, so let's implement our cache, and for that, first of all in the main class what we have to do is we need to specify enable caching, and then in your business service the method you are using, there you specify cacheable and just name your cache, let's say data cache. Okay, alright, so that's all we need. Now let's run our application. Okay, so it is still taking time because we are using different values. So during the first call the cache was filled with the value 2, but the second call we made, that is using a different value. So since cache don't have your value, so it will still fire your method, and for that let's change it to 2 and see the behavior. So cache will only work if your value is already retrieved earlier, and here you can see now the second call the time is reduced. Okay, it comes down to 1 millisecond. But if I make another call, or if I change this call to any value which is not retrieved earlier, then it will still take time. So if I specify 1, let's say, and run it, since cache was never filled with this value earlier, for both the calls it will be around 3000 milliseconds only. Yes, so let's put it back and let's see the code. The changes we made is we just annotate the method with cacheable and provide a cache value or cache name, and in the application, the Spring Boot application, here we specify enable caching. Those are the only two things we added. Now let's say you want to configure a property here and you want that you don't want to enable the cache, or you want to disable it for certain environments. So you can have a property, let's say Spring Cache type none. So now if I get back to the application, we are still doing the same calls, and now I have put the Spring Cache type as none, so none of the cache implementation will work. And here we should get both the calls with around 3000. Yeah, you can change it to simple, which we are using since we are not using any of the sophisticated setup of Redis or any other cache implementation. So we are using the default one, which is actually the simple. So let's run it. And now we should expect our second call to be something around 1 milliseconds. All right, so that's how you can implement a simple cache. And let me show you here. So this is the reference documentation of the caching part, and here these are the list of options. This is the one which we currently see, and these are the other cache implementations which you can use if you have a much more sophisticated setup. But this approach is meant for if you want a quick solution for your caching needs and you are not looking for any kind of other setups of external cache servers. Alright, so let's revisit again one last time our code. So in the main application we just annotate enable caching, okay, and we use the command line runner run method for our invocation of business service. So in business service what we are doing is we have a method, long running method, and this method is taking 3000 milliseconds before returning the value from an array. Okay, now heading back to the application again. Here we made a first call and here we are expecting the time taken for the first execution, or any you can say any unique execution where your index number was never retrieved earlier. So this will take the same amount of time, around 3000 milliseconds, but any consecutive call with the same index number, that will take a much less time, and the time part we observe through current time millis. Alright, so that's all in this video. Thanks for watching. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.